Of attributing ultimate authorship to a person's behavior is super uh, narrow, uh, psychologically and ethically, and it's, the feeling of vengeance, right? Like you don't you have a you this feeling of vengeance is so natural to get triggered in response to a person. It's not natural in response to a wild animal who may have done something terrible, right? I mean, like you would, I mean, there have been examples of this where people have taken vengeance on animals, and it just looks like a kind of moral dysfunction, right? Like there are people who, when they're adults, are quintessentially evil, and they provoke the greatest feeling of vengeance from us. But if you just walk back their timeline, you recognize that at a certain, they were 4 years old at one point, right? They were the 4-year-old who was destined to become this terrible person.
Right.
It's an unlucky 4-year-old.
Right.
And so at what point, where's the bright line that says, okay, here's the point where it's appropriate to just hate this person and feel no compassion. And on the other side of this line, you should just feel compassion because this person's unlucky. There is no such line. And a complete understanding of this lifeline in scientific terms would obliterate any line you think you have, right? It would just be this cascade of causation. And, adding randomness to the picture doesn't help, right? Randomness is just, somebody's in your brain rolling dice, influencing your behavior that way. Well, that doesn't give you the free will people think they have. So ironically, there's what seems on some level deflationary of the gravitas of the human spirit for people, opens the door to, at least in my view, a far more ethical and tolerant and patient and understanding view of human failings and human frailty. And then at that point you can just have a conversation about what's pragmatic, what works, what helps people change. Like in this person over here who's doing terrible things, is there something we can do to make him a better person? Well, if there is, let's do that without all the judgment.
Wouldn't it be amazing if that's how we treated these public shaming events? Like, wouldn't it be amazing if we gave someone an opportunity to say, this is what I did, this is how awful I feel about this, I would never do that again, I'm a different person, that was 20 years ago, whatever it was, and have everybody join in. Hey, anyone could be you. Thank you for being honest about who you are now. Thank you for evolving. Thank you for expressing yourself in a way that maybe other people who have also committed really just unsavory or just unfortunate things in the past, unfortunate acts in the past, they can feel relieved by the fact that you've grown and evolved to become a better person.
Oh yeah.
And that you're a different thing now, and you are the product of all of your experiences. You're not this one thing. You're not stuck in who you were when you were 16 years old. If you were Marky Mark and you hit that guy with a stick, whatever he did, you're not stuck in that spot forever. These don't it's not a scarlet letter. It's not a mark on your forehead that you keep for life.
Yeah, I mean the classic example is just like the Charles Whitman example, where you have a brain tumor that's causing this aberrant behavior. In that case, everyone sees, okay, this is not evil, this is a brain tumor.
That's the tower shooter guy?
Yeah, back in '64, I think.
The word karma means action. And when something happens to you, be it good or bad, they say it is your karma. That means, quite simply, it is your doing. But you say, I didn't mean to do that. No. One school of thought will explain it by saying, but you see, you did something in a former life, or at a former time, which now has this consequence. But that's a very superficial understanding of karma. You don't need to believe in reincarnation to understand karma. Karma is simply that you don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That with one aspect, you are doing what you call the environment, and with the other aspect, you are doing what you call the organism, the me, this living body. But as you cannot conceive, possibly, the existence of a living body with no environment, that is the clue that the two are basically one. Like the two poles of a magnet, north is quite different from south, and yet it's all one magnet. So in precisely the same way, you are both what you do and what happens to you. So that you have a little game in which you play that what happens to you, that you're not responsible for. That's not you, see? You're only responsible for this side of it. And then you can compete with the other side. What it's like is this. Get two knitting pins, one in each hand, and have a fencing match with yourself. And really, sincerely, try to stick the other hand. But that other hand must really sincerely be trying to stick the first one and also to defend itself. It's like playing chess with yourself. You see? Now, it won't work. You'll come to a sort of standstill unless you decide for your right hand that that's the one that's really going to win. Well, then you've broken the rule of the game, you see? Well, that's what we do. That's what is called by both the Hindus and the Buddhists avidya, ignorance, which really better means ignorance. So what it comes down to, you see, is basically this. Just in the same way that the authority of the Guru is your authority. You did it. So the place where you are in life is where you've put yourself.
This is what you guys have to understand. So, like, you know this debate between free will and destiny that exists in the West? Mm-hmm. Karma fixes this beautifully. So there's no debate in karma. So what karma says is that it is your choice whether you jump off a cliff, but once you jump off a cliff, you're destined to fall. So karma is a tie between free will and destiny, and you're absolutely right that if you look back on your life and you say there's nothing else I could have done, in a bizarre way you're right. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing you can't do today. In fact, what you should do is reframe that to recognize you couldn't have done any better than you did, but today is a new day and you can sow new karma. So you don't control anything that happened in the past, but in the present moment, your actions will influence the future.